right. So then he's talking about deacons there. So we're going to go in Acts chapter 6 in verse 2 through 6, where the apostles, they got to a point where they were doing all this work, and they didn't have enough time to do the work. Like, that they were cleaning off tables and all this stuff. So because they're the apostles and they're supposed to be teaching the people and praying and, ministering to the people in a different way than this. So they create these deacons, the office of deacon. So can you...
Yeah, Acts 6, 2 through 6. And the 12 summoned the full number of the disciples and said, "It is not right that we should give up preaching the word of God to serve tables. Therefore, brothers, pick out from among you 7 men of good repute, full of the Spirit and of wisdom, whom we will appoint to this duty. But we will devote ourselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word." And what they said pleased the whole gathering. And they chose Stephen, a man full of faith and of the Holy Spirit, and Philip, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, Prochorus, and Nicanor, and Timon, and Parmenas, and Nicholas, a proselyte, thank you, and Nicholas, a proselyte of Antioch. These they set before the apostles, and they prayed and laid their hands on them.
Okay, so again, the apostles' instruction is to go and select 7 men. Let's see, therefore, brothers, pick up 7 men of good repute. And so, again, it's all men, all right? All men. All the apostles are men. All the deacons are men. All the deacons have to be husband of one wife. The elders have to be husband of one wife. And then all these, these masculine pronouns that talk about his household, all that stuff,
yes.
His family. So, that's the design of God for these offices. Now, what they try to do, like I said, they try to pollute your Frosted Flakes, and they'll try to say, because the word diakonos, okay, is a word that just means servant. In Greek, it's a common word that means servant. So he's using it. It's called literary polysemy, where you use one word to mean multiple things, okay? It's just like, as an elder of the church, teaching elder, they call me a minister sometimes, okay? That just means a servant, right? I'm a servant of Christ. That's just true. And so, like, in every, like, it's true that Tim and I are both servants of Christ, and actually every single person that's a saint, that's in covenant with Christ, is a servant of Christ. But not every single person is a teaching elder of the church, right? So if somebody was to refer to me as like the minister or the senior minister, they don't mean the same thing that you might mean as everyone's a servant of the church, right? They mean something different, even though they're using the same word. Okay, and I've used the English word love, like I love my pizza, I love my dog, I love my wife. Those don't mean the same thing, even though the sentence is almost exactly the same. And that's what's going on here. So, like in the future, there's a place in Romans chapter 1, or no, it's not Romans 1. Romans 16. Romans 16. Yeah, it's Romans 16, where Paul sends a woman named Phoebe to the church in Rome. And says he sent her there because she's carrying a letter that he sent. So he says, make sure that she's a servant of the church in Cenchreae. So the word's diakonos, right? But there's a whole bunch of places in the New Testament where the word diakonos is used, and it doesn't mean a deacon, okay? It just means like a servant or something, because it's a common Greek word. And so there's only like 3 places, I think, in the whole New Testament where before the modern era, like you were talking about with the translations, where they translated the word deacon. Okay, so that was it's like Philippians 1 and in 1 Timothy 3 in 2 places, different places there. So, it doesn't mean but that's what these egalitarians will try to say. They'll say none of all this other stuff matters.
Yeah.
Because Phoebe was a deacon, right? That's eisegesis, guys. It's not extracting the meaning from the text. That is like trying to insert something that you want into the text that's not there, okay? There's all this other evidence that shows that the deacons were all men. They were required to be men, that the apostles were only men, that the leadership of the church is all men all the time, and that is the whole counsel of God. So for you to think that that's just the same thing I was talking about, it's like, peeing in the Frosted Flakes. It's like they just think that they can insert this one thing in there, and that invalidates all the other stuff, and that's just that's not the case. And you've got to look out for that. It's like what do they call it when in a court case where you're trying to look for the like a plurality of evidence or something like that, or it's like where most of the evidence, like almost all the evidence points to this one place, so it overrules any other thing. That, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here's the deal though. That other thing isn't even a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if it was a thing, which it's not, the plurality of evidence like obliterates that. But it's not even a thing. It's a false sort of deal. But that's just what they try to do. They try to make some kind of doubt in your mind. Maybe it doesn't mean that. Because of this. Or to give warrant to people who want to just be disobedient, so that they can just be like, they can be disobedient with a clear conscience. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also like in the case of Phoebe, the example that's used in Romans is not even an exercise that is leadership. It's not an exercise that would denote that she is a deacon or holds an office of leadership within the church. I mean, it's literally letter carrier.
Right.
And so even like if you look at it practically, it's not giving credence or evidence to her being a deacon at all.
Right. So the church. So if we had people that were, doing one of our events like trunk or treat or something, or like VBS. So all the people that are volunteering, that are from our church, are servants of the church.
Servants of the church,
at Burlington,
absolutely.
our faith
Yes.
church, right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
All of them are.
Yes.
So no matter what they're doing,
Yes.
they all are. But if they're women, they're not deacons.
They're
in the
not
church.
deacons.
Right. Even though it's the same word in the Greek, it's talking about two different things. And so I think that's one of the things that these people go to in their kind of textual criticism. They'll focus in on one word that may have 7 different meanings, and then they will say it means this. It always means this. Mm-hmm. Everywhere it is, even though it obviously doesn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then they'll just create that. I mean, it's really nonsensical because I don't see how anybody would. They don't have a clear conscience. They're not being objective. It's just rhetorical. It's just like, well, here's that word. It's the same word. It means the same thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what they do. So you can't listen to that stuff, guys. It's real easy, especially if we don't know the Bible very well. It's real easy for these charlatans who are very like quick-witted or clever, even if they don't know the Bible very well either, to deceive you. Because especially good con men, because they're good at like kind of just figuring out what they need to say and what they just need to know a little bit about in order to just take you down a different road.
Yeah.
And so that's what this is. There's no female deacons in the Bible. The requirements are clear. The examples are all clear. There's no example of a female deacon, and there's no room for that at all. So, and certainly there's not, because there's certainly not for a pastor at all. There's no example that they can even come up with, and that's why you'll see these complementarians arguing for having only male pastors, but you could have female deacons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because even the egalitarians are not able to really find any room for that. So anyway, like we were talking, there's prohibitions about women teaching in the church as well, and so that doesn't apply to deacons, because deacons don't teach the church, but the elders do. And so we looked at 1 Timothy 2 and brought that up. But there's also a passage in 1 Corinthians 14 where it talks about this as well. So there's 2 different places. So you can't just say it was cultural, in Ephesus, because they had this temple of Artemis in Timothy. Because in Corinth, he's saying the same thing, and that's a completely different church. But he's going to give like a universal command about it. So if you want to...
Yeah, so in 1 Corinthians 14, verses 33 through 35, Paul says this, as in all the churches of the saints, the women should keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be in submission, as the law also says. If there is anything they desire to learn, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is shameful for a woman to speak in church.
Right. As in all the churches of the saints, not in just in the church in Corinth, not just in the church in Ephesus, as in all the churches of the saints.
Yeah.
And he roots it in the law, right?
Yes.
He roots it in the law. So it's like I said, guys, it's not this kind of tenuous thing. It's like this is the teaching of the church, and that's why for 2,000 years, or until the very modern time, there was no women deacons, there was no women elders, there was no women preachers, there was none of that stuff. Okay, and so it's a red flag. It's something that you can use to help you discern. Look, this never happened before in church history. It's perfectly clear and understandable why that is.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's happening now should red flag you that whatever's going on isn't Christian. It's something else.